Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I welcome you to another edition of the Time Management Revolution podcast. I am Helene Segura, and today I am excited that we have with us Bri Conn, and she is the Chief Experience Officer of Childfree Wealth, which is a life and planning firm dedicated to helping people simplify their finances so they can live an amazing child-free life. She is also a child-free wealth specialist and the co-host of the Child-Free Wealth podcast. In her free time, Bri loves hiking, running, and generally anything that involves being outside. Welcome, Bri.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's kick this off with somebody who might be curious because they have clicked into this podcast, they have seen the title, and they know I'm about time management, but then they see child-free wealth and management. Can you explain the connection to make sure that they keep on listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like our main thing is, we want to make your finances simple so that your life can be amazing. Meaning, we don't want you to spend a lot of time managing your finances. We want it to be really easy for you. You're comfortable with what's going on, you know what's going on, and that your time can be better spent on the things that you enjoy doing because not many people besides myself and a few of us at our team there, really love spending a lot of time on finances.
Got you. And I agree. Not that I love spending time on finances, it's just I would rather do something else with that time, like maybe drink a glass of wine. But anywho,
Yeah.
what led you to this path, not only to finance, but also specifically child free?
It was an accident for sure. I knew I wanted to go into finance, and I had spent 5 years in marketing, was doing that, and I ended up in this Facebook group for people who don't have kids. It was suggested to me, and I was just said, I don't have kids, don't really plan on it. Seems like a good group. Cool. Two different posts, and the first one said, "What do you do now?" And the second one said, "What do you want to do?" Commented on both of them, saying what I did in marketing, and then saying I wanted to be a certified financial planner. And Dr. J, who started Child Free Wealth, saw both comments and said, "Hey, I'm a CFP. If you have questions, let me know." We got together, we connected. It was supposed to be a 30-minute talk, ended up being 2 hours. Happened a second time, and I said, "Can I have a job?" And he said, "Let me think about that." And then called me back a couple days later and said, "I think we can make this work." And now we've been doing this for a few years now together. So,
Wow, isn't that funny? It's serendipity, and then all of a sudden you have this opportunity dropped into your lap, and you
yeah.
obviously grabbed hold of it. So congratulations to you. So you've been on a bit of a journey because you were in marketing in the past and now you're with the Child Free Wealth. What's an important lesson that you have learned in your professional life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the biggest thing is finances can be a lot simpler. They don't need to be complex. That was one thing when I was getting into personal finance. It felt like it was super complex as I was learning and growing for myself. But then as I got into finance, I was like, oh, it needs to be this big, robust thing. No, it does not need to be. It can be very simple, very easy. And I mean, even in my own life, this year I sent in all my tax documents last night to my CPA and I said, we have substantially less documents than last year. And just simplifying it from that aspect makes things so much faster. So.
Oh, definitely. And that definitely will save a whole lot of time. My goodness, the fewer documents that you need to deal with and then
Yeah.
hand over, the better. So, diving into what your area of expertise is, how is life and financial planning different for folks who don't have children?
Mhm. First thing we ask all of our clients is, do you care about how much money you leave behind when you die? Many of them they say no, I don't. There's not really anybody there to leave it to. And so then it means, okay, if you don't care about how much money you have when you die to pass on, and the leftover is going to go maybe to nieces and nephews, maybe to a friend or charity or something like that, and you're really able to then focus on what do you want out of life? Because you're not worrying about growing a big nest egg. You're just figuring out how can I make sure that I'm taken care of if you're in a partnership, that you and your partner are taken care of. And it's really figuring out what do you want out of life, not how can we get the most zeros in our bank account.
Interesting. So, are most of your clients, say, in their 40s and 50s because they have determined they definitely aren't having kids, don't have kids, and that's when they start working with you? Or do you have folks who are younger in their 20s who have made that decision?
We have folks in their 20s that have made that decision, and
Mm.
there are folks, that we've seen, and they are adamant. And I mean, all of our clients are adamant. They're like, I'm not having kids. But it's just, to me, even seeing how young of clients we do get kind of surprised me at first because
Mhm.
I just didn't really know for the longest time. And so it's really been fun to see how that's in our clients, how that has evolved and that decision has evolved for them to
Mhm.
say, no, I know from a quote unquote young age, and this is not what I want out of my future. So I'm not going to have children, and I'm
Mhm.
going to be child free because that's what I prefer. So,
Huh. And have you ever had a client change their minds and they decide to have kids later?
nope, never.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is fascinating because that's such a huge decision. And I know a
Mhm.
couple of people in my life who have decided, oh no, we're not going to have kids. And then they either decide to, or just some kind of life situation happens, or they might have to take over guardianship
Yeah.
of some kids. So wow, that is fascinating.
Yep.
And are all of your clients local, or do you work virtually with your clients?
We are all virtual. So we are all over the US and we can work with anybody as long as you're a US citizen living in the United States, we can work with you. So I have, well, maybe I have medical. I'm trying to think now. I'm like, actually, I think I might have met a couple clients in person. Um, but otherwise, it's all virtual. So we can meet with you wherever you are.
Oh, nice. Very good. Well, slipping into time management mode for a moment, what's a typical day like for you?
Yeah. My days, I'm probably a really bad example of like a typical day because I am somebody who really enjoys flexibility and freedom.
Mhm.
And I like structure, but I don't want it to be so structured. I'm not the person you're gonna look at my calendar and it's not time blocked. It's just I have blocks of time that are for
Mhm.
dedicated things. But, it might be, hey, I'm taking a morning off and I'm going doing something, but then I'm going to work later in the evening. So I'm kind of all over. I like to start my mornings though by diving in deep. I tend to not look at my emails for a couple hours in the morning. Instead, I do other things I need to get done. I just have
Mhm.
my continual running to-do list. From there, I know when I have client meetings, I prep for those. I love to do the prep though, where it's really deep work in the morning and then do more meetings in the afternoon. I find that I'm somebody who most of my time I'm really good at focusing in the morning or
Mhm.
in the evening, like late in the evening. So it's not uncommon for me to say, "Hey, I'm, not really focused right now. I'm going to pop out and I'm going to go spend my evening working instead. And then during the day when it's daylight out, I'm going to go outside and run, hike, do all those things that I was talking about, in my bio. So my day it is, I would say, kind of group tasks together, and
Okay.
I put them when I know that I can focus best.
Oh, that's great. So when you're deciding how you want to use your time for the day, are you stopping at the end of a workday, looking at the next, or you do your planning in the morning, or you have that bit of structure built in the morning and you just go with the flow for the rest of the day and decide in the moment what you need to do?
It depends on the day.
Okay.
So, sometimes I have what's called GSD time on my calendar. Get shit done. I don't know if I can
I
say that
love
on here.
it. I love it.
Like, I don't know if I can say that on here. Some podcasts are
We,
very like, don't say that.
no, I mean, if somebody gets upset, we can bleep it out later, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have that, and then I have a list, and it's just my GSD list. And so when I have those times, then that's when I'm like, okay, these are tasks that I can knock out pretty easily. And I just sit down, I pop a podcast on or something in the background, and I just run through them. And it's very much, I honestly go by a feel a lot. Like, do I physically feel like I can go through and do this? I have hard deadlines that I need to get done for certain things. But I've learned over the years that my body is just not one that can be forced to do things. And
Mhm.
I have a lot of resistance to that, which
Mhm.
when I first was doing all of this, it would take me a heck of a lot longer to do things because I was so resistant to that time frame that
Mm,
felt very kind of, it was slightly self-imposed, but imposed by other things. And I realized,
mhm,
no, if I get too much of that, then my time management goes out the window, and a task that can take me 15 minutes will take me an hour or an hour and 15 minutes. So now it's very much, do I feel up to it? Can I just quickly flow through these things? And
mhm.
that I know that's such a weird thing for time management, but I think for me, learning when my body responds to different things best has been absolutely phenomenal to getting things done so much faster.
That is excellent. And I don't find it weird at all because, in fact, that's part of what I preach. That time management is all about mind management. So it's having this connection and this self-awareness to how does my body feel? How is my body reacting? How does my mind feel? And how is my mind reacting? And you're exactly right. If we are not in a productive frame of mind, either physically or mentally, then this task can end up dragging out so much longer. And that's how we lose time. So I love how self-aware you are, and then you can adjust depending on how you're feeling, either physically or emotionally. So yay, it's not weird at all. Preach, sister. All right. So slipping back into financial mode. So you're helping folks build up a nest egg for them because we're
Mhm.
focused on the child-free finance. So what are a few easy ways to make some financial planning decisions or just plain old make financial planning simpler?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one I always do, it's pretty basic and anybody can do, is automate things where you can. So
Mm,
that goes savings, investing, paying off if you use credit cards, paying those off all the time, putting them on auto pay, and anything that you can automate, do it. It makes it so, so much simpler. The amount of times that people have to go in and pay things off manually, it's kind of a pain in the butt. And just
mm,
don't even worry yourself with that. As long as you know what's going on, one thing, especially for somebody who's really starting out in their financial journey and is like, hey, I don't really even know where my money is going. I love getting some sort of app and connecting it to your accounts and having it budget kind of, it's not going to budget for you, but at least getting
mm,
some of the categories done because that
mm,
really can be such an overwhelming lift at the beginning of your financial journey when you're
mhm,
just trying to figure out where your money is going every month. And
mm,
so I like setting up apps to help you track all of that and know where your money is going and make it a little bit easier because, well, I can easily do it with a spreadsheet, and I have done it with a spreadsheet. There's still that resistance because it does take time to put everything in a
mm,
spreadsheet. Whereas, hey, connect it to an app. There's a bunch of different ones out there, YNAB, Monarch, all of those things. And it just makes it a little bit easier for you, a little bit faster, and you
mhm,
can get a grasp on your money journey sooner.
mm. Exactly. I know that once I let down this mind block of allowing a connection between technology, basically an app or some kind of online platform, and my financial space. Because, I've watched too many movies, so I'm afraid of all my money being sucked out. And I
Yeah,
realize that still should be a concern. But
yeah,
once I allowed automation in, it really did save a lot of time because I used to just hand input every single transaction and not with a spreadsheet like what you were talking about, but into QuickBooks. And that can be really tedious when
yeah,
you're doing all of that by hand. So I definitely would not recommend QuickBooks for a household budget
yeah.
because it's way overkill. But any kind of apps like the ones that you mentioned would be super helpful. Um, so how often should I be checking on my finances?
If you're talking about your budget, we're going to be checking in on that. I like to say weekly because you want to
Mhm,
know where your money is going. Hey, maybe
mhm,
this month you're halfway through the month and you realize, dang, I've spent a lot on eating out this month that I didn't really mean to.
mhm,
And we're going way over that budget.
mhm,
But if you check, some people say check once a month. I don't like that advice because if you check once a month, you would have zero time to course correct. The month is done and over
mhm.
with.
Okay.
So checking weekly allows you to make some corrections, allows you to just adjust where needed.
Mhm.
And maybe you say, hey, I'm actually, my expenses are substantially lower this month than I thought.
Mhm.
Maybe you can save for another goal that you have going on and direct money there, or you just want to have some fun and you can take
Mhm.
and use that money for fun too. So
Mhm.
budgeting is always weekly. Investments, love to check them twice a year. Cool,
Mhm.
they're good, they're there. One of our big things is we are not into single stock picking, and part of that is when you're doing that, you have to know when to get in and know when to get out. And there's just a lot of complication there. And that doesn't make
Mhm.
it easier at all. In fact, it makes
Mhm.
it substantially harder to manage your investments.
Mhm.
And so by having a nicely diversified portfolio that's pretty simple, then you're not having to check things too often. It's just,
Mhm.
yep, money's there, you're good.
Mhm. Hmm. So in working with a variety of clients, what kind of challenges have you needed to help clients through? So maybe it was a mental breakthrough that they needed to make, or maybe it was a concept related to finance. What kinds of challenges have you helped with?
Yeah. Well, in regards to the investment, checking, like I said, checking investments twice a year,
Mhm.
we've had clients who check their investments daily and they just have such a high anxiety level that's really
Mhm.
tied to their investments. And so it's been talking
Mhm.
through, figuring out, okay, what is it about your investments that's causing you to check every single day and
Mhm.
making you so stressed about it? So how can we educate you? How can we maybe put you in investments that you feel good and you feel comfortable in? Because I know
Mhm.
we all have things where sometimes we just don't understand it, and that
Mhm.
can really stress us out. So figuring out what education is needed to make them comfortable with their investments and put
Mhm.
them in a position where they have the freedom and flexibility to not be tied to checking things all the time.
Mhm.
That's a big thing, but also giving people permission to live their life and get off of the standard life script that says that you go to school, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, you build wealth, you retire, you die, and then you pass money on to the next generation. Because that's
Mhm.
not our clients' lives at all. So, really
Mhm.
working through that and giving them that permission to live their life has been such a big thing for us.
Hmm. Very important because it's that mindset that's going to help you define what your vision is for the future, as well as what your definition of balance is. So
Mhm.
that's super important. Um, I realize this is not a financial podcast, but I think it does go toward mindset and where you spend your mental energy. If we're talking about finances, you've already mentioned budget, you've mentioned investments. Should we be focused on we need to pay down debt, we need to pay down debt, we need to pay down debt, or should we be focused on I need to invest for retirement, or are we trying to find some kind of balance there?
Yeah. One of the best ways that you can kind of just build a solid financial foundation in our belief is paying off your debt. So, really focusing on getting that paid off and not having any debt, having a fully funded emergency fund, because
Mhm.
that not only allows you to have fewer bills every month, but
Mhm.
just gives you that freedom to put more money where you want. But I always say, let's think of it from a cash flow perspective.
Mhm.
If you have a ton of debt and required monthly bills, in the event that something happens and you no longer have income coming in, those expenses are not going to stop. They're going to keep coming at you whether or not you like them. However, if you don't have any debt and the things you're paying every month are, rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, rather simple. In the event something happens and you no longer have income coming in, the amount of bills that you have to make every month are substantially lower, which can
Mhm.
really reduce the amount of stress that one person has. And
Mhm.
so that's where we always start. We call them the 8 baby steps. And the first one is get a starter emergency fund of 1 month of expenses. Second one is pay off your debt. Third one is save a fully funded emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months of expenses. And then
Mhm.
four is save and invest for your goals. So we're starting to really figure out, okay, what is important to you? We're investing for retirement, or if you just want to cut back on work, however that looks, maybe it's taking some more trips and increasing your travel, or
Mhm.
it's trying out something that you really wanted to do, but you haven't done for a long time because it just costs. It's a high cost. We all have hobbies that are a little bit more high cost than others.
Mhm.
And so it's figuring out what does that look like for you, but having that solid financial foundation of no
Mhm.
debt and a fully funded emergency fund can put you in such a good place.
Yes, definitely. Because you mentioned that it can be very stressful when you have all of these different worries, basically. And since my belief is that time management is all about mind management, when we have those kinds of worries, it slows down our problem solving and our decision making, and therefore makes a negative impact on our time management. So, earlier when I asked you about, well, how is the child free wealth in the financial world connected to time management? This is a huge part of it, is just having that clear mind that
Yeah.
yes, we still need to be somewhat I don't want to use the word worried, but aware of what our financial situation is. But if it becomes so much of a burden, that's when we really get bogged down mentally. So I love everything that you've been sharing. Um, Curious, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you have a retirement goal, like a certain age or something you want to be able to do when you retire?
Yeah. I really kind of have I don't know if it's a certain age necessarily or it's fully cutting back on work. I'm not sure what that looks like. I do
Mhm,
think that I can foresee myself being somebody who goes to part-time work sooner
mhm,
rather than later in life.
mhm,
Still probably not for a while because there are a lot of
mhm,
things that I'm just
mhm,
like, oh, I like doing this a lot.
mhm,
So much of my work doesn't feel super challenging, honestly.
mhm.
I mean, not in like a it feels challenging, but in a really good way, an enjoyable way, an
Mm,
exciting way, not in a bad
mm,
way that makes me want to say, like, I want to get away from this.
mm,
Um, if anything, I would maybe cut back the amount of clients. So I don't have, it's such a hard thing because I really don't have like a certain age in mind or
mm,
any sort of this is what I want to do. I like traveling and
mm,
I feel like I have such a good thing going right now. I can be wherever I want. I
mhm,
work remotely. So, there are times where even a couple weeks ago, hey, I was on the road, still worked a little bit. A lot of the things I want to do in life, I'm already doing. So,
That's wonderful.
yeah.
That's wonderful. Instead of basically saving a bucket list for the
Mhm.
end of your life, you are living your bucket list and you're living life on your terms. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, actually, um when I was younger, I had well, younger than I am now, but when I was in college and I worked really hard through college, also got incredibly lucky and I would travel a ton. And I remember having somebody tell me that I should not be traveling. I needed to just work and um, I could save that traveling for retirement. And me being me, I kind of clap back at people if they will tell me something. I'm like, no, like, one, you're not paying my bills, so you have zero input on my life.
Mhm,
Two, I see you in retirement now and you can't do half the things you want to do. So you're telling me to
mhm,
wait to do these things while also in the next breath telling me how much you wish you would have done these things sooner because you physically cannot do them now.
mhm,
So I've always just been somebody who does the things that I want when I want to do them versus waiting for later. Um, I plan for them, so it's not like I go out and do them the next day without any sort of
mhm.
thought,
Right.
but it's yeah, there is no waiting for retirement for me because who knows what life brings and tomorrow is never promised.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Oh my goodness, Bree, you're so wise. How did you
thank you.
get to be so wise?
Lots of things happening over life. You just realize you're like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Well, it tells me a lot that you have experienced life and you realize that there are lessons to learn and lessons to be applied. versus waiting until the end of your life and
Mhm.
reflecting on all the things you wished you had done differently. Probably like that person who you met who tried to tell you, oh, don't travel until you retire. So I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you are living life on your terms and you are so self-aware about how you are feeling physically and mentally and financially and
Mhm.
funly. And
Yeah. I like
I
that
love
word.
it. Yeah, funly. We just created a new word in the English language.
That's
Now,
perfect.
before I ask you how people can reach you, is there anything else you would like to share about child-free wealth or just life in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if people are looking to just figure out really what we're about, Dr. Jay Zigma and founder of Childfree Wealth just wrote a new book. It's called The Child-Free Guide to Life and Money. And so that's probably a really good start for a lot of people and just to learn more about us, get a little bit more of a deep dive. So, yeah.
Great. And can people find that on the website you're about to give to us, or is it on
Yeah.
Amazon, or where can they find the book?
You can find it anywhere the books are sold. So Amazon, Bookshop, Barnes& and Noble, all those places have it. So,
Okay,
yeah.
wonderful. And I will be asking you after the interview to please send me a link to the book because I want to make
Yeah.
sure that I share it in wherever the podcast is published. So, Bri, what is a website that people can go to find out more about you and Child
Yeah.
Free Wealth?
Yes, it is just simply childfreewealth.com. Childfree is all one word, and that is where we can be found. We're Child Free Wealth on all the social platforms as well.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you make it so easy with that website, childfreewealth.com. Bri Conn, thank you so much for being with us today. I hope to see you again sometime in the future.
Thank you. Have a good day.